Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that the life you're living right now is not the life you were meant to accept, but the life you temporarily tolerated. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Nothing outside of you needs to change for your life to transform completely. Not your luck, not your parents, not your past, not even the people who hurt you. The only thing that needs a radical, ruthless, honest shift is you. This is not motivation for entertainment. This is not feel-good talk. This is a 7-day challenge that can either offend you or free you. And the difference depends on how honest you're willing to be with yourself. Most people don't fail because they are weak. They fail because they keep negotiating with their own excuses. They keep saying one day after this phase when things get better. But life doesn't reward intentions. Life rewards decisions. And this challenge begins with a decision so uncomfortable that most people quit before day one even ends, taking full responsibility for who you are and where you are. Day one is not about productivity. It is not about waking up early or drinking water or reading books. Day one is about brutal self-awareness. You sit with yourself without noise, without distractions, without lies, and you ask one dangerous question: how am I betraying my own potential? Not how others failed you, not how circumstances were unfair, how you choose comfort over growth, how you delay hard conversations, how you stay in familiar pain because unfamiliar growth scares you. On this day, you don't fix anything. You observe. You notice your patterns, the way you react, the way you escape, the way you avoid silence because silence forces you to hear the truth. This day hurts because denial finally loses its power. Day two is about discipline, not motivation. Motivation is emotional. Discipline is a decision. On this day, you do what you said you would do regardless of how you feel. You wake up when you promised yourself you would. You stop waiting to feel ready. Because readiness is a myth created by people who fear responsibility. You realize something powerful on this day. Your emotions don't control you. You control your actions, and once your actions change, your emotions eventually follow. You don't aim for perfection, you aim for consistency. Even when your mind screams for comfort, you choose structure. And this is where confidence begins, not from success, but from keeping promises to yourself. Day three is emotional detox. This is the day you confront the emotional baggage you've been dragging for years, like an identity. Old resentment, old heartbreaks, old rejections. You stop romanticizing your pain. You stop using your trauma as a personality trait. You understand that what hurt you was real, but staying hurt is a choice. On this day, you don't suppress emotions, you process them. You write what you never said. You admit what you never admitted. And then you do something powerful. You stop giving people free rent in your mind, not because they deserve forgiveness, but because you deserve peace. Emotional maturity begins the moment you stop expecting closure from people who never had self-awareness to begin with. Day four is mental reprogramming. This is where most people resist because their identity feels threatened. You realize that many of your thoughts are not facts. They are habits. You catch yourself saying, I can't, I'm not good enough. This is just how I am. And instead of believing those thoughts, you question them. Who taught me this? When did I decide this was true? You understand that confidence is not arrogance, it's clarity. Clarity about your values, clarity about your boundaries. On this day, you stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop shrinking to be digestible. You don't become loud, you become grounded. And grounded people are dangerous to a world that benefits from insecurity. Day five is relationship reset. And no, this is not about cutting everyone off dramatically. It's about observing energy. Who drains you? Who respects your boundaries? Who benefits from the old version of you? You realize that not everyone who is used to you deserves access to the upgraded you. You stop overgiving. You stop chasing validation. You stop confusing attention with connection. On this day, you learn a hard lesson. Being kind does not mean being available to disrespect. You can be compassionate without being a doormat. You can love without self-abandonment. And the moment you change how you allow people to treat you, everything around you recalibrates. Day 6 is vision and direction. This is where your future stops being a vague wish and starts becoming a clear target. You ask yourself, if I continue living exactly like this for the next 5 years, where will I end up? And if the answer scares you, good. Fear is a signal, not an enemy. On this day, you define what kind of person you want to become, not what you want to have, but who you want to be. Because once your identity is clear, your decisions become easier. You stop asking, what should I do? And start asking, what would the best version of me do? And slowly your daily choices begin aligning with your long-term self-respect. Day 7 is embodiment. This is where change becomes visible, not because you announce it, not because you prove anything, but because your energy shifts. You move differently. You speak differently. You tolerate less nonsense. You no longer need external approval because your internal alignment feels stronger than applause. You understand that confidence is quiet, growth is silent, and transformation doesn't need an audience. On this day, you commit not to a perfect life, but to a conscious one. A life where you pause before reacting, where you choose growth over ego, where you understand that healing is not linear, but it is intentional. And here's the part most people don't like hearing. This challenge doesn't magically end after 7 days. These 7 days don't change your life. They change your direction. And direction, repeated daily, changes destiny. You will still have bad days. You will still feel doubt, but you will no longer feel lost. Because once you've met the version of you who chooses awareness over excuses, you can never fully go back to sleep again. The real transformation is not becoming someone new. It's finally becoming someone honest. Honest about your needs, honest about your limits, honest about your worth. And when that honesty becomes your lifestyle, your entire life begins to respond differently to you. You start noticing that the world reacts to you based on the standards you silently set for yourself. When you tolerate chaos internally, chaos shows up externally. When you accept bare minimum from yourself, life mirrors that back through people, opportunities, and outcomes. This is why change feels uncomfortable at first, because your nervous system is addicted to familiarity, not happiness. You may even feel lonely during this process because the old version of you was social, agreeable, always available, always understanding. The new version is selective, self-aware, and no longer negotiates self-respect for temporary comfort. There will be moments during these 7 days when your mind tries to sabotage you. It will whisper, "You're doing too much. Relax. This isn't necessary. Other people aren't trying this hard." Understand this clearly. Your mind's job is to protect you from discomfort, not to protect your future. Growth feels like danger to an untrained mind. So when resistance shows up, don't panic. Resistance is evidence that you're touching something real. You will also realize how much time you've wasted explaining yourself to people who were never interested in understanding you. You will see how often you dimmed your light to avoid making others uncomfortable. And the most painful realization might be this: some people loved the version of you that had no boundaries. They loved your silence, your patience, your emotional labor, but they will resist your growth. Not because you've changed for the worse, but because your growth disrupts the power dynamic they benefited from. This is where courage becomes essential, not loud courage, quiet courage. the kind that shows up when you say no without guilt, when you choose rest without apologizing, when you stop replying immediately, when you let people feel disappointed because you finally chose yourself. Disappointment is not cruelty. It is a natural consequence of boundaries. During this challenge, you will also confront your relationship with time. You will notice how often you escape into distractions to avoid facing your thoughts. Endless scrolling, random conversations, background noise. Silence becomes intimidating when you're avoiding accountability. But silence is where clarity lives. Silence forces you to listen, not to fear, but to intuition. And intuition becomes louder the moment you stop outsourcing your decisions to other people's opinions. You will start to see patterns in your life that once felt like bad luck. The repeated disappointments, the same type of conflicts, the same emotional cycles. And instead of asking, "Why does this keep happening to me?" you'll ask a more powerful question: "What is this situation trying to teach me about myself?" The moment you stop seeing life as something happening to you and start seeing it as something responding to you, everything shifts. Another uncomfortable truth surfaces during these days. Healing is not always soft. Sometimes healing feels like anger. Sometimes it feels like grief for the version of you that survived things you should never have had to survive. Sometimes it feels like exhaustion because growth requires energy. Don't rush these emotions. Don't label them as weakness. Emotional honesty is strength. Suppressed emotions don't disappear. They wait. And when they resurface, they do so through anxiety, overthinking, and self-sabotage. As the days progress, you begin to detach from external validation. Compliments don't define you anymore, and criticism doesn't destroy you. You stop performing. You stop proving. You start existing with intention. And this is where peace enters. Not the kind of peace that comes from everything going right, but the kind that comes from knowing you'll be okay even when things go wrong. You also start respecting your body differently, not for appearance, but for communication. Fatigue is no longer ignored. Burnout is no longer glorified. Rest becomes productive. You understand that discipline also means knowing when to pause. Consistency doesn't mean punishment. It means sustainability. And when you stop abusing yourself in the name of ambition, your progress becomes steady instead of chaotic. There's a moment in this challenge where you realize that confidence was never missing. You were just disconnected from it. Confidence isn't created by achievements alone. It's built when your actions align with your values, when your words match your behavior, when you stop saying yes out of fear and start saying yes out of alignment. Integrity with yourself becomes your new foundation. And slowly, without forcing it, your environment begins to change. Conversations shift, opportunities appear, some connections fade, new ones emerge, not because you chased them, but because you became a match for something better. Growth is magnetic when it's authentic. What makes this challenge powerful is not the structure of the days, but the internal shift they trigger. You stop seeing yourself as someone who needs fixing and start seeing yourself as someone who needs understanding. You stop chasing transformation and start practicing awareness. And awareness, once developed, never really leaves you. You may stumble after these days. You may fall back into old habits briefly. That doesn't mean you failed. It means you're human. The difference now is that you notice. You catch yourself sooner. You course correct faster. And that's how real change happens. Not through perfection, but through presence. Because the moment you become conscious of your patterns, those patterns lose control over you, and this is where everything comes together. This is where you stop asking for another sign, another motivation video, another push from the outside, because the truth is harsh but liberating. No one is coming to save you from the life you keep choosing, and that is not a threat, it's power. The same hands that created your wounds are not required to heal you. The same past that shaped your fears does not get to decide your future. What decides your future is what you do after awareness. If these 7 days taught you anything, let it be this. You were never broken. You were distracted. Distracted by noise, by people, by fear, by comfort, by old identities that no longer fit. And the moment you chose to sit with yourself instead of running away, the moment you chose responsibility over excuses, you reclaimed something priceless, self-respect. Not the loud kind, the quiet, unshakable kind. From this point forward, life will test you, not to punish you, but to check if you truly meant what you decided. You will be tempted to return to old patterns because they feel familiar. But familiarity is not safety. Familiarity is just repetition. And you didn't come this far to repeat the same version of yourself with different excuses. Remember this clearly. Growth will cost you people, comfort, and convenience. But staying the same will cost you your potential, your peace, and eventually your self-worth. Choose wisely, choose consciously, choose daily. Because the strongest people are not those who never fall. They are the ones who refuse to stay down once they understand their own power. This is not the end of a challenge. This is the beginning of a standard. And once your standards rise, your entire life is forced to rise with them.